And we're going to start our Zoom call for today. Now, a couple of things. Last week, I guess Zoom wasn't working 100% and our recording wasn't able to function. So, was really strange. So what we're going to do is, for anybody who's interested, next week, we're going to have a Zoom call that's specifically about identifying body language. So what we're going to do is I'm going to prepare a new video because some of the people already saw the video from last week. So I'm going to prepare a new video in which we're going to analyze what the alert body language looks like, which is the language that you want to interrupt before it becomes intense, and when to pet and when not to touch or giving any resource to your dog. Now, in preparation for next week's Zoom class, which is going to be really remarkable, if you as a dog owner or handler or trainer can identify body language really quickly, you're going to be able to do anything with any dog because it's basically their language. So once you're able to see it in a GIF, you'll be able to really communicate very effectively. So today, what I decided to work on is on a teaching what's called an attention noise. Now, what that is a sound that you create that is kind of redirecting your dog when there's a potentiality of intention escalating. So, for example, the intention could be a playful intention, but too much of it. It could be a jumping intention. It could be an intention that is actually not friendly. It could be a frustrated intention. So intentions actually precede emotional responses. So let's look at it for a second. So in order for me to have an intention, there has to be a thought, but the thoughts create the emotions. So if you're able to interrupt the thought, the emotion will not follow. Right? And that's where having a class where you understand body language is so effective, because body language allows you to see when the thought is surfacing up. And as you practice and you get better, there's actually a point where you don't even have to look at the body language. You know the thought is coming. And that just takes time. It's not magic. There's nothing magical about being able to read a dog's thoughts or intentions. It's just basically practicing watching their body language enough that your body will pick up with cues right before that body language happens. And this is where the relationship with your dog based on trust and respect is really important. Because what happens is when you have a relationship based on trust and respect, one of the things that is magical about it is that you connect to your dog at a level that is not physical or like sound or like anything. And you can actually perceive your dog. There's no magic. It's like an intuition. It's like what the mothers feel when there's danger and you all of a sudden turn around, right? So we want to get into that level of connection with our dogs. Now, in order to get to that level of connection, we need to be calm and breathe. We really need to learn how to breathe, because when there is no breath, there's thought. And when there's thought, there's emotions. Okay, but when you quiet the mind and you breathe, you can perceive other things in your environment, right? Like sometimes when you're going to a culinary school and you're learning about like how to identify like smells from a meal that you're preparing, they ask you to close your eyes. Close your eyes and smell. And while you're smelling, there's no thought. You're trying to like perceive that idea, that feeling of what is it, what flavor is that. So there's a reason why they ask you to close your eyes. Because when you're closing your eyes and you're breathing, you have more ability to slow down and perceive something. So again, to repeat for some of the people that show up today, what our goal for today's Zoom class is to learn what's called an interrupter sound, okay? Or we also call it a attention noise. is a specific sound that can help your dog focus on you and come to you when the intention is about to change into a high emotion, when the salt levels are gonna go up. Okay, so what we're gonna do next week is we're gonna have a video again where we're gonna explain again about body language of when we will wanna use this sound. So if you guys are interested in learning when to actually apply the information that we're teaching here, next Zoom class will be really important because we're gonna analyze videos of dogs and their behavior. Okay, so let's go over this attention, noise, interrupter, sound, this behavior. So every single dog knows what chasing a treat is. Does any of your dogs know how to do that? Can you toss a treat and your dog will chase it? Is there anybody here that the dog won't chase a treat? Okay, Sheila and Sally, what does your dog eat?
He does eat treats. Sometimes if you throw it, he doesn't see it.
Yeah, so make sure his eyes are well trimmed, because dogs that have the type of fur that Hendrix have, sometimes they have hair on their eyes and they miss the treat for that reason. Okay, so try doing that first. The second thing is try using treats that are bigger, just so they can see it. So maybe a piece of cheese that is obviously like, I would say they are like cream color. So if there's a contrast between the environment and the cheese, and get your dog practicing chasing a treat. Okay, that's the first step. Sheila, how about you?
Oh no, Roxy does chase treats, but
Perfect.
not if she's distracted by
Yeah, don't worry about the distraction.
a squirrel or something. But she will chase it otherwise.
Yeah, so don't worry about the distractions. We'll work on that later on. Okay, so right now what we're gonna do is we're gonna teach a sound. So first step, everybody ready? You're gonna toss a treat, but first put it on the dog's nose and toss the treat out. Everybody clear with that part? When you toss the treat out, as soon as the dog body orients back to you or looks at you or any amount of something, do your sound, your interrupter sound, your attention noise. Now, a really great example is, that's a really good example. If you have a nice loud clap, that could be your interrupter sound. Now, another one could be, right? But it cannot be a command. It has to be a sound, some sound. Now, another one could be that. Now, I cannot for the likes of me do that when I'm cold. I can't do it. Okay, so I'm not gonna teach that. Okay, so what I can do is I can do the R's. That comes out no matter what my weather condition is like. Okay, so you have to choose a sound. So you put the treat on the nose. This is kindergarten, okay, guys? We're not, your dog doesn't have to know this. We're gonna teach it. Treat on the nose. I toss my treat out. My dog is to chase it. The second they look back, boom, 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 you know, one sound. As the dog comes to you, okay, and is running to you to get the treat, toss it again to the opposite direction. And then, as soon as the dog orients back to you or looks at you, make the sound again. And you want to do that behavior minimum 3 times. Now, as soon as the 3 times are finished, or more, however many you want, but don't do more than 5, then you're going to say free and ignore the dog. Look up at the sky. And you ignore the dog completely. Completely remove all attention towards the dog. Everybody understand that so far? So there is an important, valuable learning experience in this tiny, super simple exercise. The first one is that when I am training this behavior, there's 2 values that I'm adding. Number 1 is the treat that the dog is going to chase. That's tasty. So there's value on that. But the most important part is that there's value on chasing me when I make the sound. So as soon as I make the sound, the dog is coming towards me, and my attention and my sound was valuable. Then the third value is leaving me and going to get the treat again. Okay, so there's like 3 values right there. So that responding to that sound is very valuable. And the dog is learning, wow, this is incredible. Like, I want to listen to that sound, right? Now, when it comes to, like Sheila was saying, oh, my dog would not listen to me at all if there's a squirrel. Well, that's because the squirrel is more valuable to whatever you're doing. So I'm not going to start training with the squirrel at the beginning. At the beginning, I'm going to actually add a lot of value to this sound, a lot of value. I mean, think about how long it took you to teach your dog yes. So basically, when I raise my puppies, as soon as they can see, they're learning yes. And it takes me 8 weeks. Yes, 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 yes. And I'm drilling this yes onto them. So that takes time to create that value for that particular word. Okay, so now we got it. So I put the treat on the nose, I toss it, the dog goes. As soon as the dog looks back at me, because they look back at me and creating the value of making the sound, the dog comes to me, I toss another treat, and then they come look at me, I make the sound again, I toss another treat, and I do that minimum 3 times, maximum 5 times. Okay, now what we're gonna do after that is that you are going to wait for your dog to be distracted, and you're going to test it once. Okay, only once. As soon as your dog is distracted, make your sound. And if your dog immediately looks at you, party time. Toss the treat, you know, and then wait for him to look at you again, toss the treat again, and wait for you to look at you again, toss the treat again. So this was the first time we added the sound when the dog was no longer looking at us. It was like distracted. Okay, so that's the first time. So if you made the sound and the dog did not turn around immediately and chase you, that means that you have to go back to step 1 longer times before you can move to that distraction sound. Now, here's something that I'd like you to consider, because this is hard to understand. This is so crazy. This is such a simple exercise. Why do I have to do this with my dog? Why does I have to do this? This is insane. Who has time for this? Those are some of the thoughts that come up when we're talking about something so simple, because it's not complicated for us people, but it's a big deal for a dog. But I want to give you an example in real life situation in a human world. Let's say that when you were at school, you learned the letter D, but you weren't writing it properly. And so you were making it wrong or sometimes confusing them with a B. So one day your teacher got angry at you and said, whoa, why can't you not get the letter D? Don't you see it? The little ball is on the other side. Why can't you not get it? So in that moment, you're just a kid. So you have a bad feeling about the letter D because you associated that to the D and the teacher. And you don't even know this at a conscious level. This is subconscious, okay? So what happens later on is that as you grow older, you notice that you have a hard time reading words that have the letter D. Now, you may not notice consciously at all or subconsciously, but you just have a hard time reading and you don't know why. You have no idea why. This is what happens at the schools. So what happens is you go up and you're growing older, and there's ways that you come up with avoiding that and trying to overcome that. And because you're actually a human and you're really smart, you find a way to go over all of that and still look really smart and pretend to know something when you don't know it. Okay, so when the same equivalent scenario is what will happen with your dog when you skip steps. And when you start asking your dog to come to you when they're distracted and they don't come. And then you have to force them to come, or you have to, beg them to come. What you're doing is you're building their learning ability incorrectly. And so later on, these things stack up and actually do not support your dog to make the right choices. So even though it's the most simplistic exercise of putting the treat on the nose, tossing it, and then making the sound when they do already look at you or they're orienting back to you, and then you toss it again, even though it's the most simplistic exercise, is the most important one. So that's the one I will practice the most. I will practice that inside my house, outside in the garage, outside in the driveway. And again, I'm not asking the dog to do anything. I'm putting the treat on the nose, I'm tossing it away. The second my dog looks at me, and I'm tossing another treat. So I'm really building my dog's ability to understand what the means. And I'm gonna take time on that particular thing. Even though it's the most simplistic, and when you look at it, it's like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, why am I doing this? It actually has a purpose. So it's the same thing, for example, Mike, may I share about Whiskey? So Mike and I are working with Whiskey. Whiskey's been trained to be a service dog. And we went to Canadian Tire, and Whiskey wouldn't sit. He knows the sit, but we had to like continuously tell him or lure him or help him to sit. So then I told Mike, let's go back to kindergarten. Only give him treats when he sits immediately, and when you're luring him, like when it's the fastest sits, and don't give any rewards for anything else. I was so impressed. In a few days, Mike came back and Whiskey had that sit like this. It was amazing. So it's like, yes, he is a teenager. He should know better. He should know how to sit, but it doesn't matter. Let's go back to kindergarten, making it easy for him, and only reward for what you're looking for. Not when you're begging and then he does it, because that's not appropriate. If I provide my dog with a reward when I have to beg for a behavior, why would my dog ever perform the behavior right away? And also, if you have to beg, there's a level where the dog is confusing the D with the B. It's not like, do you really think that the dog is looking at you and going, I don't want to sit for you? Like, that's not how they function. They don't have any malice in them. Like, right? They don't really look at you and say, I refuse to come to you. Like, no, it's literally, they are not understanding that what the behavior is. They're not understanding that in that particular situation, they have to do this behavior. So it's just bringing that clarity. So, okay, so go back to our procedure of how to teach that interrupting sound or that attention noise, however you want to call it. So again, I first put my treat on the nose. I'm not asking the dog to think. I'm tossing my treat. My treat is big, easily seeable, and it rolls. Okay, and my dog runs to get it. And if my dog looks at me or moves towards me, I make my sound and I toss another treat, and I do that 3 to 5 times. Okay, now when I've done that enough times that I know my dog loves this game, it's very similar to proximity, except we're using yes when proximity is when I know my dog knows this already. I'm gonna now say it when my dog is distracted for the first time. Now, here's the thing. If I say it the first time when my dog is distracted in front of a squirrel, it's too hard. Okay, that's like algebra. Okay, so I can't do that. I may do it when they're looking at the cat food, or like when they're looking at the cat, something a little bit less intense. And if looking at the cat and eating the cat food is too intense, then I can't do it then. I have to do it when he just literally just got distracted for a second. Okay, so I'm gonna set up myself for success, because the brain of the dog is very simple compared to the brain of a human. But the coolest thing is that if you learn how to work with dogs effectively, you can learn how to be actually a really good friend, because you'll realize that there's no reason why we should project ourselves onto another, or like, oh, I can do that really fast, why can you? That's the same thing as saying, oh, why don't you get it, dog? I can do it, but that doesn't make any sense. We're all different. We all have different learning abilities, right? And like I tell you something, I'm working with this amazing, ginormous Swiss mountain dog right now. He is huge. He has like 20 pounds on me. Like, he's huge, massive, okay? And I took him for a walk, and oh my gosh, I don't think I ever walked that slow in my life. And I ask him to sit, and he's like, sit. And he's like that. And it takes him so long to sit, way longer than Koi. So it's like, I'm not gonna ask for a speed for that dog. It's not gonna work out for me at all. It's not gonna work out, right? So it's like we all learn differently, and we have to adapt at the way we learn. Look, this is Koi. Hi guys, here, Koi is gonna come. Koi, say hi to the camera, baby. There's Koi. Here's your face. There's your face. There he is. Hi, Koi. He has bird brain. He's slow too. I love him. Okay, so are we understanding so far? So again, I can expect, like, if your dog, like, I don't know, Mateo, I think your dog is super smart. I think you teach your dog something in 2 seconds, basically, right? Like, but like Koi, so, right? So you have to, and also sometimes they learn something faster with a specific command because they get it, and other times they won't. It'll take them a long time. So we just have to be patient. Okay, next step. Okay, next step is that you want to play with your dog a little bit with this. So once my dog is kind of playing around with the sound and started to come when he's distracted, I always want to go back to the number 1 game just to help my dog a little bit, just to help my dog continue to reinforce creating that value for the game. Then the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna play with different rewards. So for example, I can have a treat and I can have a ball. So let's say my dog is distracted and I call my dog, and my dog came like super fast with my sound, and it was amazing. If my dog has a high value for the ball, I may throw the ball at that point to continue to add more value to this sound. Okay, now if my dog likes treats more, I can toss the treat. But I may investigate, maybe I can toss a piece of cheese, which will be more valuable than maybe a kibble. Okay, so now I want to actually make it so the dog cannot predict when the value of coming back to you after listening to the sound is going to be higher or lower. So then what I can do is I can choose, if he comes really fast, I can use my high value reward. And if he comes kind of like he's coming anyways, but kind of slowish, then I can use my less valuable reward. Okay, and then I'm gonna go back to number 1. Again, number 1, where I put the treat on the nose and I toss it. Right, I'm gonna go back to that. So between steps, I go back to every once in a while doing number 1. So far, so good, everybody? Okay, last step. There's nothing more fun than playing hide and seek with your dog. Okay, so you can be in your house, you can have somebody else hold your dog, or you can put your dog on a sit stay if your dog has a great sit stay, or on their bed if your dog has great bed manners. Now, if your dog doesn't have a sit stay, doesn't have a down stay, and doesn't have bed manners, talk to me. We'll go over that separately, okay? Because we can't teach everything in one class. But once your dog is doing that, and I have my dog sitting or like on the bed, or somebody else is grabbing my dog, say, are you ready? And run away and hide. And then as soon as you make the sound, whoever is holding your dog, let's go immediately. Or if your dog is on a sit stay, just make the sound, and your dog should run to find you. And when they find you, oh my gosh, all the love and affection. Oh, puppy, throw yourself on the ground, let them lick your face, wrestle with them, play tug of war, whatever in the world you want to do with your dog. Now, that's hide and seek, using your interrupter sound or your attention noise. You can call it either way. Depending on the type of training you're doing, they call it whatever. Okay, so now this is the challenge with this game, this hide and seek game, is that a lot of people may do the hide and seek game more than 2 or 3 times. Now, what happens is that literally when your dog is on a sit stay or down stay or being held by somebody, there's actually neurons working, right? And when you call their noise, there's neurons working, and then when they run at you, there's neurons working, and the way they get to you and you use all the intensity of the emotion of the moment, and you're like high intense, there's neuron going. So if you play the hide and seek more than 3 times, what will end up happening is your dog is going to burn out, because they actually spent a lot of energy focusing on you and on what you were doing. So that will be detrimental for your training. So I don't know if you had an opportunity to recognize that there's a pattern when we teach you anything, that we always say, train 2 to 3 minutes, the exercise. Don't do very long, because actually if you do a training session for 2 to 3 minutes or 5 minutes max, okay, and then your dog has a break, guess what? Your dog actually learned. As soon as I burned out my dog, they start making 1,000 mistakes. And now when you say their name, they go like this. And they don't actually want to focus on you because they're burned out mentally. Or they are like, go chew on something, and they ignore you. So you're better off playing 5 times a day for 2-3 minutes each than doing one training session for 30 minutes. Now, obviously, when I have a class with you, you're paying me for an hour. It really wouldn't be effective for me to train with you for 5 minutes, go to the next person, train for 5 minutes. I will die. My brain will be fried. That wouldn't work out, right? But that is the best case scenario. So now I play hide and seek in the house. I know how to work on that behavior, okay? So the next step is gonna be applying it for the first time when there's no distractions. So you go for a hike with your dog, there's no one around, okay? Your dog all of a sudden runs in front of you or runs away or something, quickly hide. Then make your sound. And when your dog finds you, party, yeah, toss the treat. Brr, make the sound again, toss the treat. Brr, make the sound again, toss the treat. You know what? My dog will not pass me because they're paranoid. They're looking at me like this. They never know what's going to happen. So when you hike, in case you don't know, your dog should be behind you. If you don't know how to do that when you're hiking, I will let you know. But you hike with your dog behind you, not in front of you. Okay. So far, so good. So again, there was no distractions, although it was the forest. Is distracting enough already for the dog. If I was to add my hide and seek game in the presence of other dogs, of other people, that would be too difficult. Right? I mean, the best hide and seek game I ever did is I had like a pack of 4 dogs, I believe. No, hold on. Yeah, there were 4 dogs, and I said free, and I let them all run. When I say free, they can do whatever they want in any direction, but I'm not moving. And so they were distracted, and I slid underneath a log so they couldn't see my body at all. And then I made my sound, and they came and they jumped the log, and they never saw me. And then they kept jumping the log and they couldn't find me. It was hilarious. And by the time they found me, they were like, oh my gosh, you're here. Oh my gosh. And then the rest of the walk, they wouldn't take their eyes off of me. It's like, I better not stop looking at her because she's going to disappear somewhere. Right? And they have such a strong pack instinct that that's really fun to create that kind of panic in a good way, in a way in which they want to stay with you. That's amazing. Now, I had a client actually that tried that same thing, but she didn't have a really good recall. Like she hadn't practiced the proximity games. She didn't practice any of the other games, the middle, the touch, like any of those things. So when she tried it, her dog left her and went back to the car. And it's like, where were you, Mom? Like he didn't go back to find her because she didn't have enough of that necessity to stay close to you. So that's why we want to build it up slowly at different levels. Are we clear with this? Yeah? Awesome. So that is the part of training for today. So what I like to do is for next week, if you can all practice your interrupter sound, first choose one and then practice it a little bit. And then you can give me feedback if there's anything that is not clear or you need clarification of. Bonus points to whoever sends a video. We don't have to show them on Facebook if you don't want to. You can just send it privately, but that's awesome if you can do that. And the next thing is, so next week, what we're gonna do, again, is we're gonna work on identifying body language. So we have a video of dogs interacting, and we're gonna freeze it and identify what's good and what's wrong, and when to interrupt, when not to interrupt. And the purpose of this is that your eye gets better at understanding how dogs communicate at any one moment of time through their body. And then as you get better at that with strange dogs, if you have a relationship with your dog based on trust and respect, you're going to start picking up some of these things with your dog as well. And eventually over time, it's going to be kind of like an intuition where you can feel it before it actually happens. Not magic, no wishful thinking, no affirmations for this part. You literally can do that just through practice. Okay? So that will work out. So next week is gonna be, again, a video. So it's gonna look a little bit different. But hopefully everybody can attend and we can go over that process of identifying what our dogs are saying. Does anybody have any question about the alert noise or the attention noise or the interrupter sound? Does anybody have any questions about that?
Yes.
Okay, Mike. Oh, Sheila, you go first.
You only do the nose on the first toss, right? You do the
Correct.
nose toss and then it's one more toss and then you start over with the nose again. Is that right?
That's right. So if you toss the treat and your dog goes to gets it and it never looks back at you or it never orients back to you, you're going to have to keep tossing treats. Okay, but what you need to do is you cannot make that sound the first time until the dog looked at you or oriented back to you to see where the treat come from. Okay, and that's when you make your sound. And then what happens is after you do 3 to 5, no more than 5, then you say free and you're gonna look at the sky. And you're gonna be like, doo, 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 doo. All attention gets interrupted and you ignore the dog. You wait a few seconds and then you put the treat back on the nose and then you do it again. And you do a maximum of 2 to 5 minute training session, maximum. So in 2 to 5 minutes, I probably get 3 sessions, 3 actual sets, right? And then you're free and then you go back to your business, whatever you have to do. Okay, Mike?
So Valerie, you mentioned the sort of the 3 to 5 minutes or the 2 to 3 minutes. Is it also possible to progress too slowly? In that, like, when do you know that the dog's getting bored? Like, not when you know, you see, but can you do a progression too slowly?
Yeah, no, there's no such thing. So
Okay.
there is 3 types of learners in the world, and this applies for all living creatures. So we have the slow learner, the fast learner, and the medium learner. Okay. So for example, when I went to doggy school, I actually was the slow learner. Everything took twice as long as everybody else. But now you look at me and I'm pretty fast. So it's just getting to know what you're doing. Some dogs are also thinkers. So where they actually have to process the information in their brain first and then they act. So apart from having a fast, medium, and a slow learner, you also have internal and externals. So external dogs move a lot and they'll try anything super fast. They don't even know what they're doing. They'll try multiple things at a time, even if they get it wrong. And they're external. They like think outside with their body. And then you have the internal dogs, like Hendrix is internal. Okay, he has to process the information first and then go, ah. I would say Vision is internal. I would say the dog I'm working with is internal. They actually look at it and go, oh, right? So it takes a little bit longer. But like, for example, especially for the internal dogs, if you're gonna work with that kind of dog, your session should be so much shorter. As soon as you get one success, you're done. and you end up on a super high note. Yeah, good job. Because think about it. What takes more energy? Moving a lot or thinking? I got way more tired trying to figure out my math homework than going for a run. Way more tired, right? So for the dogs that are internal, they actually get tired faster. So that's where like having short victories would be even more essential for that particular thing. Now, I also have, for example, Senshin, my dog. I did a mistake when he was younger to teach a lot of emotional control, a lot of it. So don't break the down, don't break the sit, always stay calm, like all of that. So when it was time for me to teach him to do things in like the movies, where he had to be like rambunctious, I couldn't do it. I couldn't teach him to be rambunctious because he was so controlled. So I had to go back to lots of puppy behaviors and really encourage him to get loose and like to really play and really build his drive. And I had to do, you should have seen me. I was like a crazy person dancing at the dog park with a toy going, woo, woo, come on, woo. And so she's looking at me like, what are you doing? I don't want to do that. But it took me so long. And then finally I got it. He started to like ease off of the emotional control exercises and started to act a little bit more fun, a little bit more stuff. And then I was able to use him for some behaviors that were a little bit more erratic, that, just looks good in the camera, but it's not necessarily like amazing for the society, right? So if you put too much control as well in a dog, you won't have that playfulness either. So that's what I'm saying. Like when I'm telling you about teaching your dog, like if you notice what we're talking about, like teaching this sound, I'm not serious yet with this sound. I'm actually doing it all with fun, all with animation. And when I started training Senshin, and this is the point about like having tools that really help you. So when I started training Senshin, I didn't have a vocabulary that was that stable when working with dogs. And the reason why I said that is because when I got Technotutor, I started putting my dog career in Technotutor. So a lot of the education I had prior to using Technotutor, I didn't get. Like people told me what I had to do, but I didn't really get it. And then once I started putting the vocabulary, I started applying that vocabulary and making it stable with that technology, with Technotutor. When people told me what to do, I was like, oh, that's what that meant. I actually got it. It's kind of hard to understand what that is and how that works. But basically, you can read a book. And if you read a book about how to do something and you didn't apply immediately, you didn't learn anything. You didn't actually get it. But if you actually understood the language in that book, you would apply it with no effort because you get it. So when I was first training Senshin, I did a course on how to create drive with a dog. And I tried a little bit with Senshin, but I didn't really get it. And then after I started doing my application with Technotutor, I went back and I took the same course and I was like, what? I've been doing it all wrong. And then I totally educated myself and I applied it in every area of my life with training my dogs, and everything changed. So just to know, like even at any age, we're always learning, we're always growing. And especially with something so dynamic as working with animals, there's no such thing as this is the way. Like, if there's a little kid that comes and it shows me how to do a trick easier and faster than what I've been doing it, I'm going to use that. Even though that was a little kid that figured it out. And I'll give you an example. It was so cool. Avery was there. It was crazy. So the other day, I had a whole bunch of you guys came to train, and we were working on magical chairs. Magical marks, musical marks. And then we were doing some of the touch command. And so I've been teaching touch like this. You put the treat on your hand like this, and you say touch, and you wiggle your hand. For the longest time, as long as I've been alive, basically, I had a hard time wiggling my hand like this. So that's a lot of effort. It's hard. And then Carl goes, oh, that's strange. I don't do that. I do this. He moves up and down like this. And I go, wait a second. Oh my gosh, that's so easy. Boom, I changed it. I'm like, everybody, don't do it the way I told you to do it. Do it this way. This is so easy. I mean, look, this is so much effort. And this is so easy. So like we switch and it works so much better. I was like, why didn't you tell me that 10 years ago? You know, we were laughing. But just to show like improving yourself and really reading more, well, you have to have the vocabulary anyways. But if anybody you don't have TechNatural, I highly recommend it because it honestly changes your life. Programming yourself with vocabulary that you want, with TechNatural, you deprogram yourself and you reprogram yourself with whatever you want at a subconscious level. If you don't know what it is and you want to see it one day, just let me know. I'll show it to you. It's the mind-blowing technology. I was like, whoa, what was this when I was a child, right? Anyways, does anybody else have any questions? Anitra.
Hi. So with Quattro, it's easy for me to toss a treat or ball or whatever, providing there's none of his distractions around, and he's going to come back to me. So how do I know it's the interrupter sound or that he's just coming back to me?
So think about it at the beginning as a programming tool. So it doesn't matter if he's just coming back to you. What you're associating is the sound means I run back to you. So even if he's already doing it, the more you make the sound, the more he's going to associate the two together. They link it together. So for like, you know, has anybody ever heard about that experiment where you ring the bell and you present food, you ring the bell, present food, and eventually you ring the bell and the dog salivates, even when the food is not presented? It's identical. You make the sound, the dog comes. You make the sound, the dog comes. You make the sound, the dog comes. Next thing you know, you make the sound, the dog is nowhere near, and he comes.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's just animals and humans, we all learn by association. That is story that I was telling you about with the teacher like yelling because I couldn't write the D or the B. That was association. The only reason why like a person will develop a problem is because that's how we are being programmed when they were little. We associate things. And think about it. Why did you guys get a dog? Have you associated getting a dog with bad things? I guarantee you, if you were little and a dog bit you, you wouldn't get a dog. You would get a cat or a bird or something because your association is negative. But in your life, somewhere, you associated good things to getting a dog. And some of those are extremely biased. And we got dogs like Alagoro because we associated amazing looking dog with that. And we feel good with that look. Others like the more wild look, like a, you know, like a wolfie. Others like the more like golden retriever look. By the way, if anybody has met Megan's dog, she's gorgeous. Okay, I'm not biased. I don't necessarily particularly think golden retrievers are the best looking dogs in the planet, but I gotta tell you, Megan's dog is gorgeous. I don't even know how that's possible. She looks like perfect, like from a book. Like, oh, so cute.
She says thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. She's so good looking. Okay, so anybody have any questions, not regarding the exercise, but about your regular life, a challenge that you're having, something you need clarifying with, anything like that? All right, Bruce, you go first.
Yes, hi. Yeah, just going, actually, this is going back to the exercise. With Misty, she absolutely, like, there's no way we can do the hide and seek outside because we don't have the recall set up yet.
Yeah.
But with Misty, even inside, Bev does this a lot. She'll hide. And Misty has no real drive to get off the bed, to find her at all. She's got to start pounding on the walls, just get the dog mobile.
Yeah, so for Misty, Bruce, really what it comes down to is the different techniques being applied with her. So Misty is a dog that is not so high driven in general. So what happens is when we are not consistent with the particular behaviors, then learning becomes very challenging for her. Now, what I mean with that, let me clarify what I mean with that. Let's say that your goal is really to get that interrupter behavior. Okay, solid. I'm gonna tell you the same thing I told Mike. For the next little while, there's nothing else that you practice. You don't give a treat for anything else. You don't say sit and give them a treat. All you work on is on that interrupter sound, nothing else. Nothing. So now there's this clarity that, oh, this is what I have to do for now. And then all the energy and all the effort. Now, because Misty is so low driven, and the reason why she's low driven as well, just to clarify for everybody, Bruce and Beth did an amazing job. They rescued this dog, but she was a little bit older when they rescued her, and she was never taught to think, ever. So when you have a dog that hasn't had been taught when they're little how to think, it becomes really challenging to allow them to learn later on in life, because it's like they didn't get that bridge in their brain, that ability, that grit of like trying over and over again, that ability to problem solve, that ability to like figure something out, that ability to have fun with you and learn from you. Like I still, for example, when I work with Misty, sometimes I swear, she's not with me. Like I'm not that important for her. You know what I mean? So that's hard when you have a dog that is like that, but you can change the dog. But you have to make it so easy and only work with one thing at a time. So if I'm giving Misty treats for sitting, for watching me, for anything else, that's going to create confusion because she's not actually able to move through her mind to everything that she has to do. So it is creating that opportunity for her to dedicate all her focus onto one particular behavior. So if that's the one that you want to teach, just choose that. And for the next 3 weeks, that's all you do. Interrupter sound, interrupter sound. And you can continue coming for the pack walks, but the only behavior you're going to practice is that interrupter sound, that interrupter sound, that interrupter sound, that interrupter sound, that interrupter sound. And you're going to drill it and drill it and drill it and drill it. And all of a sudden, after a certain amount of time, it's like, I got it.
Yeah.
And the drive increases. And now you have a dog that's actually responding. But again, that's like I was telling you about moving too fast, doing too many things, not making it clear. That's something I would really try.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, let's do a plan. Yes. I will do that too when she comes to school tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday.
I know tomorrow.
I forget all my days. Okay. All right, Mike, you had another question.
Yeah, they might be for another days, but I was working with Vision on recall off leash, and the last few days, she's gotten into something.
She's sorry?
She's eaten something.
Ah.
And so ended up in a vet visit today, which so a pretty serious situation in terms of she got really sick.
Is this on a hike?
Yeah. So in our local hill, it's a local park. And she was doing excellent on the recall. But
yeah. So
yeah.
a couple of things, a couple of things that everybody should know, and this is for general knowledge. In the fall and in the beginning of winter, okay, what you consider your normal dog's behavior is going to go out of the window because there's an instinct that dogs have about getting fat for the winter. So kind of like a storage of food, like doing foraging more hunting things, more stuff. So usually prey drive goes up, reactivity goes up, and that happens usually in the winter, like around this time. So so that's something to consider. Not all dogs get affected, but I found that all the dogs I ever had of any type show that behavior change. So I'm a little bit more aware of when I'm gonna call my dogs, and I will give them a little bit less freedom at the beginning of the fall and the beginning of the winter, so I have more control. And when I'm having a challenge with a dog, I will use a retractable leash, so I can practice and with safety. And I usually don't use that equipment very often unless I'm tracking or something for fun. But it is a time where any kind of tool could be very valuable for that. And then the other thing is, did the vet told you what the poison was?
We don't know. We thought it might have been a blockage, and that's why I went rushed to the vet. It wasn't a blockage, so we're just treating it with some anti-nauseant and anti-diarrheal right now.
Yeah. So another thing that I should mention is that British Columbia soil is very specific. We are in a rainforest. So what happens is the soil here and the water has a tremendous amount of giardia. So dogs, if it rains a lot, the soil gets moved with the rain, and then giardia comes up, and then they drink water, and then they get sick. And then, so the typical sickness with giardia would be puking a little bit, diarrhea, and things like that. So that's very, very common in this area, very common. Lethargic, right? So that happens so much. It's like, I know it's gonna happen at some point during the year with the rain. So that's another thing.
The other issue is eating the poop.
That's
eating
right.
the human poop.
Yeah. So for that specific thing, you guys, I do training. And that's what I was asking, actually, asking Mike if he knew what she ate. Now, we can do a specific
Well, poo, and once I don't know.
So one specific class, we can do it just on teaching leave it and actually willingly leaving things. Like, for example, my dog that I had before, not my current dog right now because I didn't put that much effort into it, but if he saw fish, he will never touch it. Smell it, roll on it, nothing. I worked so diligently on fish because if anybody lives in Squamish, you know we have the salmon run every year. And it's the most annoying thing in the world. You're dog eating the salmon, getting worms, or rolling on it, or like anything, right? So that's another reason why I don't feed salmon to my dogs ever. I will never feed salmon raw or cooked. Dog food is fine, but not in those forms because I don't want them to ever eat salmon on the rivers, right? So so we can arrange that for a specific class. Another thing that I like to say, you guys, is that we are a team. So if anybody has a video or something they're struggling, if you film a video and you send it to us, we'll help you. Okay, we'll book it so we can help you out. Okay, that's very helpful sometimes. If your dog is doing something and you don't know how to deal with it, that works really well. Okay, does anybody else have any questions?
I have a question related to burnout and what that looks like. So you mentioned that it sort of like comes after, or like some behaviors after like a 2 or 3 minute period with like the chewing and the like just kind of losing it.
And they don't look at you, and sometimes they look at their leg, or they itch, or they are like, oh, what's that over there?
I'm wondering about like that kind of idea, but maybe at the end of the day when they're really tired, because I've kind of like got the schedule and I'm like, I'll put Mabel into bed at like 9:30, but then there's always like this hour where I'm like, wow, she's been offline for like an hour. Is that a similar idea?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Can you repeat it?
It's like there's an hour at the end of the day that we have, which like I see like similar behaviors to what you described as burnout, where she just like starts chewing, starts like not responding, and I'm like, should I just be putting her down earlier? I'm just wondering if that's like similar to.
All right, so there is a time, like, are you talking about like 7 o'clock around that time or 8-ish? Or like what time specifically?
Probably like 8:30.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. Like there's the witching hour where dogs are like at nighttime, all of a sudden they get extra energy and they're crazy. Is that what you're describing? No.
I don't think so. Yeah, no.
No. Okay. So so in order for you to know if it's burnt out energy, you can ask her to do something. And if she doesn't respond and you can't teach her, she's burnt out.
Okay. But if she does it and she's she hyper does it. And
That's
then,
the witching hour.
That's the witching hour. Okay, good to know.
Yeah. And so I would really, I personally like that energy.
Okay.
I personally go like, whoa, you have a lot of energy. Let's learn something new. And I will start interacting with that energy and really using that energy.
Okay.
Right. And I would do that. And I think that a lot of us don't know how to direct that energy effectively. Like today I was working with another dog and their owner, and every time, so the dog was playing with another dog and the dog is really intense playing with another dog. And when he will call her, she would come, but then she would just give him a treat on the nose. And so that's killing the wanting the dog to come to you, because you're going from a high intensity where the dog is having a lot of fun and killing the intensity by just putting a treat on the nose. That's so boring. I mean, I would never come to you. Okay, so then I said, why don't you toss the treat on the ground instead? So then she would come, toss the treat on the ground and go, woohoo! And she actually started speeding up whenever he called her. She will come with so much more energy, because I wasn't killing the drive, right? So you can use that excitement, that energy to your advantage to get a better response. And then what we can do is, actually, I just got a text and somebody's suggesting doing a class just on recall. So we can do that. We can do a class on recall. Okay, we'll do first the class on the body language, because that will help you recall. And then we'll do a class on recall where we'll talk about some of the things. And we actually already had a class on recall, but we'll do it again. No, doesn't matter. Okay, is that good?
Yeah. And what about you were saying that when you walk with your dog in the forest, it should walk behind you?
Yeah.
So I don't know how I will teach my dog that.
Perfect. Come, we'll help you.
Okay, yeah.
We'll teach you. We'll go for a hike.
Okay.
Those are awesome.
We'll set one up.
Yeah, that's the best way. It's kind of hard to describe it. There's a lot of things involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
How do you deal with that and other dogs?
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that and other dogs? So if you're walking with other people who have different philosophy, their dogs are ahead.
I don't let my dog do that.
Yeah.
Or I said to the people I'm walking with, hey guys, I'm going to have my dog off leash when we stop, and I'm going to let her play with your dogs. But while we're moving, my dog is going to be on a leash or behind you. Now, the reason why I have that strictness, Mike, is because our dogs are service dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I can't afford it. I can't afford to have my dog learn bad behavior from other dogs. I can't do it. There's way too much on the line. There's years, effort, trainers, sweat, tears, nips, food, a lot of food.
Yeah.
So if our dogs fail the test, we're screwed. No. Yeah? Sheila?
When do you do the group walks, or like do you ever do like the group hikes in the forest? Like I kind of I don't know with Rocks. I mean, she's still a puppy, right? It's hard. Like she's
so we usually
got
don't
lots
do
to learn, but I think she needs to do some group stuff maybe.
Yeah, so when we do at the first hike, we don't usually do it on a group. And we do hold pack walks together in the forest, but not until the spring, usually. Like during the fall, we focus a lot on other activities, and we do like agility, nose work, pack walks here, but they're on the road, and do that. And because honestly, people don't show up when it's pouring rain. It's true. I always wonder, where's everybody when it's raining? Right? I still have to go out with my dog, but on the pack was we used to have them in the winter on the trails and nobody would show up. And I was like, okay, well, this is not working out for me. Now in the spring, everybody shows up.
Well,
We're
I'd
full.
show up. I would show up for you in the winter and
Yeah.
the fall. I'm
Yeah,
out
so we
there
just
every
kind of
day in
stopped
it,
trying.
so I would.
Mhm.
But
So
okay,
that's
yeah.
something that we can arrange if
Yeah.
you guys done the first class, the first pack walk, and you do have to have a private first class with that because there is a lot of things that you're taught with your particular dog specifically.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
once we have that first class, if there's anybody interested, we can hold a pack walk together. We'll do it,
Hmm.
and since it'll be a lot of us, it'll probably be like $20, something cheap, so everybody can afford it.
Hmm. Would it be worth it for me to do this, like for us to do the street ones yet?
Yeah,
With
for you,
Roxy yet?
absolutely.
Like to do the
Yeah,
just around the whatever one. Yeah.
100%. Your dog's confidence will go up the roof.
Yeah.
It'll be
Okay.
so good. I mean, Bruce comes to every class, every pack walk almost, and he's huge.
Uh-huh.
So much dogs with his height, they feel intimidated.
Hmm.
So just the fact that you're
Mhm.
walking next to a super tall
Mhm.
guy, your dog will
Mhm.
change. Your dog will change. The first couple of
Mhm.
walks is gonna be really hard, and
Mhm.
after that, you'll be like, "Oh, it's you."
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that's good.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. I've been spending a lot of time around the construction up at the university
Oh, that's good.
with
That's
all
good
the
job.
with all the workers and construction going on and
Sheila, could
machinery.
you tell?
And,
Just nobody knows your dog. Can you tell a little bit about your dog?
yeah. So my dog is from Korea. She's a Jindo mix, and she's very nervous of my spouse, like incredibly so. And we've been focusing a lot of that, like trying to figure that out. But she loves myself and my girls and is more intimidated by men.
Here's the thing.
And also has a hard time meeting new dogs.
Yeah,
It's a
so
hard time meeting new dogs.
Leanna and Mateo
at
have a
first, she's a
puppy.
bit, yeah.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. Leanna and Mateo have a
Mhm.
puppy. So we can do traitses.
Hmm.
You can work with the puppy and they can
Mm.
work with your dog because they have skills. So we can
Mhm.
help each other out, right? And that's where the pack walk is so
Mhm.
amazing. Because that's what happens. We help each other out. Like Bev and Bruce walk my dog sometimes. And they're helping out. And Avery as well. Right? Yeah. So we are in a team. And that's what a community is, right? You're not alone.
Mhm.
Raising a dog is
Yeah.
amazing when you have a team. Amazing.
Yeah.
Piece
Yeah.
of cake. When you're alone, super hard.
Yeah.
Super
Yeah.
hard.
I feel overwhelmed sometimes with trying to
Hey, look.
help her, help her, especially in the house with my spouse, right? Like with Tyson, it's like, you just want her to love him, but I know it's time, but
Yeah. It's going to take a long time.
yeah.
Because she didn't know men when she was a pup.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And this Vision looks so different. Oh my gosh, she's grown so much. That's crazy. Wow, Vision, look at you. Wow, she looks like a real dog now.
You're in my headset right now, but earlier we started watching one of the other videos and your voice came on, and she was so like she was looking at the laptop, and she
The
was
nose
yeah
is
she
huge.
got so excited about hearing your voice.
Oh,
So
baby.
here,
All right, guys. Okay, I gotta run. Everybody, so good. Now, again, with these videos, you can suggest any topic. Okay, any topic at all. You can suggest what you like to hear. There's a lot of good suggestions so far. And we'll keep doing this as long as we can until Zoom kicks us out and says, no more dog talk. Okay. So if you guys have
There's
any
Roxy.
questions or anything, you let me know, okay? Oh, look at the little one. And you guys did great with your catch. I was watching that. That was looking great.